Welcome back to Healing America's Narratives. We're still dealing with Chapter 8, and we're speaking specifically about the last section of that chapter, which deals with the what I referred to as America's culture of violence. And it's going to bring that to a close in this episode, unless I think of something else. But on March 27th, 2022, an interesting thing happened that was very public. At the Dolby Theater in Los Angeles during the Academy Awards. Two very, very well-known entertainers, very successful, talented, probably brilliant, each in his own way, had an interesting incident where one of them made a joke about the other's wife, and the one whose wife was the butt of the joke came up to the stage and slapped the person who had made the joke. Some people thought that it was a staged event, and it really wasn't serious, but it ended up being pretty serious. And what happened as a result of that slap, our developmental perspective of us versus them became very, very clear. So one entertainer slaps another entertainer on national television, and sides were immediately drawn. And in fairness, I mean, the slapper subsequently apologized more than once, not that night, but moving forward. And each apology seemed more genuine. And the person who was slapped stayed on stage after the slap and continued with his duties. But mainstream and social media jumped on it immediately. It went on for days. And other celebrities and many non-celebrities debated about who is right and who is wrong. And again, through these it's about us perspectives. And I'll share some of those with you, since it's an underlying theme throughout this book, with in no way to minimize the fact that somebody was slapped and somebody's wife was a butt of a joke, but in the context of the history of women, the history of Native Americans, history of African Americans, one wealthy celebrity slapping another on TV isn't a high priority in terms of what should get a lot of our attention, but we do love celebrities. So some of the perspectives that surfaced was that the slapper was supported because he defended his wife. Some people took that tack. Some criticized him because women can stand up for themselves, and his wife didn't need his help, right? She was an individual woman with her own agency. So he got criticized for that one. Some people pointed out that it's obvious that there is not equal protection of the laws, since no charges were filed against the slapper. Right? He was guilty of battery, the wrongful touching of another human being. He did it on national television with many in-person witnesses and many televised witnesses, and yet no charges were dropped. If you or I did that, there's a good chance. I said no charges were dropped, no charges were filed. So he wasn't detained or arrested or anything. Some people criticized the man who was slapped because his joke was inappropriate. It went too far. Right? Many people, including most other comedians, basically said, nah, that was well within the realm of stand-up comedy. So you can hear these different views that went to bat for one or the other of these two men. And then, some, even characterize the slapper as another example of toxic masculinity. So I'm not going to take any of those sides. I just want to put that out there. And as I'm speaking, I'm going to see if we're going to need one more episode for this chapter on the end of violence, or the end of this chapter dealing with violence is probably more accurate. Interestingly, the following night, the man who actually had done the slapping, and at this stage, obviously, I'm speaking about Will Smith having slapped Chris Rock on stage. But while Chris Rock was doing a comedy show in Boston the following night, a heckler, nobody got up on the stage with him, but a heckler from the audience was removed from the audience, handcuffed, and taken away by the local police. So again, put that into perspective about equal protection. Two well-known, wealthy individuals have an encounter on national TV, and one slaps the other, and the one who does the slapping has no legal charges brought against him. The next night, a heckler in an audience in another state, in another city, is taken out of the audience, handcuffed, and taken away by the police. I'm not sure if formal charges were applied there or not. What's important to note is while all of this was going on, while these celebrities were slapping and being slapped, right, and while the rest of us debated the slap, gun violence, suicide, and other violence continued in Los Angeles, where the slap took place, and across the country. So we've accepted as normal these 103, give or take, gunshot deaths a day, but we're shocked and enraged and really interested when one entertainer slaps another entertainer. So we're going to leave it there for now and then just tie this up in the next episode. So again, as always, thank you for listening. This went a little bit longer than I thought it was going to go, but the juxtaposition of celebrity slapping and day-to-day violence in this country seems like it's worth taking a closer look at. All right, thanks again for tuning in.